I've learned so much about myself through acting that I think I always knew like that's my way through. And if I find that, I find me, and like I can break all of these spells and all of this darkness that's trying to overcome me because I'm so fucking powerful.
Can you start by talking about how you feel right now?
I feel a little overwhelmed by all of a sudden working again after stay-at-home orders and not seeing people, and now work and everything is happening again, and it just makes me tired. I definitely have to like hide away and be alone in order to have energy to give other people energy. So 8 months of that was good for me.
Can you talk about what your style says about you?
I'm always wearing things that remind me of myself. So like my rings are my great grandma's, my overalls are my grandpa's. I have a stack of bracelets that I usually wear that all represent the most important people to me. My dog, my partner, my sisters. I guess my style actually then represents the people that I love who make me me.
And what about your hair?
What does it say about me? That I like attention?
Why does it say that?
I like attention because it reminds me that I'm alive and I exist, and it feels validating to be seen.
Have you always worn your hair this way?
No, this is the first time that I've known what my hair looks like when it just grows out of my scalp. How is that I know what my pubes look like more than I know the hair on my head?
Right.
When I was younger, my mom took really good care of my hair. She learned how to do my hair. Our hair textures are not the same. You know, even my mom tending to my hair, and that in itself, that action acknowledges that my hair is beautiful and worthy, and I still was somehow brainwashed into believing otherwise. But that might also have been because my mom's side of the family is white. No one on my dad's side was wearing their hair natural, and it was wigs or weaves, and that's why when I grew up to take care of my hair, I assumed that's what I'm supposed to do with this. I'm supposed to like tuck it away. During stay-at-home orders definitely is when I became more familiar with my hair because it grew so much and I had so much time to walk around with hair masks in and learn to braid my hair and play with it. And so this is the first time that I know what my hair looks like, not just big and curly, but like what my curl pattern is.
Can you talk a little bit about the assumptions that people make about you, or that you think people might make about you based on your appearance?
I experience a lot of assumptions that one would make about an actor. Like even the attention thing and me liking attention seen as like, of course you do, you're an actor, that's why you act, to get attention. And it's like, no, I act for the same reason I like attention, which is to feel alive and to be seen as a fully fleshed human. But for the most part, what I have gotten from social media is everyone thinks that I'm smoking pot all the time and that I just don't give a fuck. And
So what's the rest of the truth?
I overthink everything. And I'm pretty neurotic, and that's kind of, it all goes together. I think that's how I end up in that place of being perceived that way, because I care so much that I have to at some point be like, okay, you just have to let it all go.
Can you talk about an insecurity that you've been working on, especially maybe that has come out of the shadow much more during the last 7 or 8 months, during COVID?
I think that over the last 8 months, I did a lot of falling apart and coming back together again. And the last few years of my life have been really hard. I was struggling with illness that I wasn't aware of, and it makes you just hate yourself, like, oh my God, my body's attacking itself. And my cortisol levels were through the roof. And I had chronic migraines, it was interfering with work, my body was swollen. I think naturally, if you deal with an illness or like your body is not doing what it's meant to be doing, you naturally will hate the way that it also looks. And so I just hated myself inside out. And so I Zoom met with all of my doctors and I just couldn't find out what was happening. I slipped into a psychosis, which has happened to me before. I had accepted that I had bipolar disorder, and I got a new psychiatrist, And as soon as I started taking my medication, all of those things went away.
What is bipolar disorder?
Well, first of all, bipolar disorder can look like a number of things, and for it to be diagnosed, there's a certain amount of time that you have to be in a stage called hypomania. I was first diagnosed 5 years ago. But since then, I've been diagnosed on medication, got rid of my medication. You crash eventually. Of course, as one does, I fell into the trap of I can cure this with like the power of my mind. You know, I gotta meditate it away. The worst thing for me was like this rampant wellness culture that we have of like you can fix everything if you're a vegan and you go to yoga and you get Reiki. And all of those things do work for me, but they're complementing my medication and seeing my therapist and having a team of doctors. I think it wasn't really until I was completely alone that I could even acknowledge that I was experiencing such high highs and such low lows. But then the high highs looked really freaky, and this change was so swift that it was like I would come out of being in a high high or a low low, and it was like, oh my God, I was just like blacked out for however many months. I wouldn't sleep for days. And I also found out at the time that someone I was seeing had cheated on me while I was in this psychosis. It's interesting because you can be experiencing a psychosis and then a heartbreak happens and you're still like, the heartbreak is more painful. I think I seeked out help because of the heartbreak. When I was telling the psychiatrist what was going on is when he made me backtrack and go, hold on. So you were on a spending spree and you were doing this and you were cutting off who and you were going where and you thought that God did, huh? And you're here because of a heartbreak? Other things are happening. Then the doctor prescribed me medication and then I went off and filmed and felt liberated and single and good, and of course that's when you're like, I don't need medication, I just need to be happy, duh. The past 8 months I obviously had a moment. I watched a lot of people in my life struggle in ways that maybe normally we're not aware of each other in that way because we're distracted by everything else. And I think that also gave me the confidence to not only accept my diagnosis, but also just say it, because I was so embarrassed and thinking like, oh, people aren't gonna think that I can like keep up with work and all actors have this or that. I also made the decision to get a Black therapist.
This year?
Yeah. It's been so nice to talk to someone who's like, no, don't avoid how that affected you. Let's talk about how the environment and how Black Lives Matter is actually affecting you. Whereas my white therapist was not doing that. In my mind, everything is because I'm Black or because I'm gay. And so it's really nice to have a therapist who can say, this happened because you're Black and because of all of these other things. Whereas my white therapist would just be like, it's not because you're Black, it's because of this stuff. And I've learned so much about myself through acting that I think I always knew like that's my way through. And if I find that, I find me, and like I can break all of these spells and all of this darkness that's trying to overcome me because I'm so fucking powerful. Like I feel like I am made up of magic, and I think a lot of us are, and that's why this movement is going the way that it's going, and it's because it's a lot of folks who are tapped into themselves, and it's broken a lot of curses.
So you were saying with regards to acting that it's like taught you so much about who you are. Like, can you talk more about that?
I think just in the ways that I try to make sense of characters and relate to them, that I end up making sense of myself, because I ask myself questions of like, why wouldn't I do this thing that they're doing? Or why would I? Acting can make me discover myself and ask questions I've never asked. It can be very validating and make me feel beautiful and cool in the bee's fucking knees. Or it can do the complete opposite and make me feel like a trash bag full of shit. Whether it's come from like the director's son or the director themselves. Like I've been told, make her hair bigger. I hired her because of her hair. And I'm like, cool. Or director's son once was on set and said to me that, yeah, they needed a black girl. And my dad asked me who was a cool black girl. And I said, you. So I'm how you got the job. If we're still casting people based on what they look like, we're still not casting by the person who services the character the best, or the story the best. You know, if you read the script and it says like her hair blows in the wind and she's effortlessly beautiful, you envision a certain type of person. If she has great work ethic and she's on top of her game in her job, you want to cast someone who's also really fit, because work ethic and size go hand in hand, apparently, like according to media. And I've also shown up on set as like the lead of something where in the script she is written as like, oh, something silly, like pretty and doesn't know it. And then I'll get there and literally everyone will be like, I'm sorry, who are you on the call sheet? And like their faces when I say that I'm the lead of the movie, it could make me cry, because I'm just like, literally, one, you read this and like, then you didn't even look up who I was. So you're not prepared to do my hair. You're not prepared to do anything that has in regards to me, because in your mind, you know what that person looks like and it's not me.
What has it been like coming to terms with accepting and like kind of releasing the shame around your mental health, like, and sharing it with like, I don't know, your loved ones or partner?
Yeah. It coincides with like releasing shame around my sexuality and my body. And this time it was just like, I am so relieved to know why now these things are happening and like how necessary a diagnosis is, because now I can make sense of myself and it allows me to love myself. And I find that I will speak to people who have borderline personality disorder, or people who are on the spectrum, or people who have adult ADHD, and I'm like, oh, you operate on the same wavelength that I'm operating on. Like, you're not like completely on the outside. In fact, I have now a community and I don't feel like an outsider. I'm the insider. I'm there.
When do you feel the most vulnerable?
Oh, just whenever someone like looks me in the eyes. Yeah, that makes me feel vulnerable.
What do you hope for?
I think the thing that I want to do before I die, so I would say that's my biggest hope, is that I inspire people to find their magic the way that people have inspired me to do that.
Yeah, when do you feel the most beautiful?
I felt really beautiful over the summer with my pod, and we were all just being each other's safe haven during a time that's really scary. Being witnessed nude and witnessing others nude, to just bask in nature together in like all of its glory. That's when I feel most beautiful.
Last question, why in your journey, in your skin, in your body, why is it a good place to be?
Everything aligns and makes sense to me. And even if I don't like my body or my mind, and like maybe the thoughts that I'm thinking or the way that my heart is tugging, I still always feel like everything about me makes sense to me. So making sense to the world doesn't matter. I wouldn't change anything about myself, even the things that may make my experience a little bit more difficult. The difficulty makes me more of a knowledgeable person and cooler.
Magic.
Magic. Yeah, literally. When you have magic, all of those other things don't matter. You're like, I don't want anything to be moved because it's like buzzing.
Beautiful. That was amazing. The whole thing was completely amazing.
Oh my God, thank you.
We're all like
Drooling.
drooling and absorbed. And, yeah.
I feel like because I'm already vulnerable, I'm supposed to tell you that I'm like, I don't believe you.
Hi, we're Elisa and Lily, the mother and daughter creators of StyleLikeU.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the What's Underneath project, brought to you by the Honey Pot and True & Co.
We are so deeply thankful to True & Co. and Honey Pot, whose support allows us to bring these radically honest stories to life.
Learn more about our sponsors and their stories in the description below.
We are also really excited to let you know that you can get the extended version of this interview in the What's Underneath podcast wherever you listen to podcasts.
If you were inspired by Kiersey's story, please take a moment to subscribe to our YouTube channel over here.
And don't forget to click the bell so each Thursday you're reminded of when we've dropped a new episode.
And thank you from the bottom of our hearts to all of our members who continually support our growth. You can join them by heading over to patreon.com/StyleLikeU.